My name is Hannah. For many years, I worked as an OR nurse. In that time, I saw a great deal: injuries, hope, despair, people who found their way back into life, and people we could do nothing more for. Most of it, over the years, blurs together into something you carry quietly, without needing to name it. But there is one day I will never forget. It was Mother's Day? At the time, my own sons were about the same age as the teenagers brought to us that day. It started as an ordinary evening shift. Nothing about the first hours suggested what was coming. Then the call came in. A car, 4 young people inside, had gone off the road on a mountain pass and fallen into a ravine. Not close friends, they barely knew each other. They had met that evening at some gathering none of them would ever fully explain afterward, and decided, almost on a whim, to keep driving together into the night. By the time rescue teams reached the wreck, 2 of them were already gone. The fire had taken them before anyone could get close enough. The other 2 were brought to us, to me. None of them could have known hours earlier that this was the decision that would end 2 lives and change 2 others forever. A few hours later, we were fighting for the 2 who reached us. I remember the corridor before they even arrived. The particular kind of quiet that falls over a hospital when everyone already senses how serious it is. We gave everything we had. Every hand in that room worked as if the outcome still depended entirely on speed and skill, because in that moment, it did. Both of them we managed to bring back. When I drove home that night, I didn't stop at the usual places, didn't do the usual small errands. All I could do was go straight to my sons' rooms and hold them close, longer than they were used to, longer than I could explain to them at the time. I kept thinking, it could have been one of my sons. Any parent's son, any parent's daughter. That's the thing about a night like that. It doesn't stay in the hospital. It follows you home and sits at your kitchen table. Many people believe that those of us in healthcare grow used to moments like this, that we build up some kind of armor and eventually stop feeling it. That isn't true. You learn to function. You learn to walk back into that OR the next day and do your job with steady hands, because the next patient needs those steady hands just as much as the last one did. But some fates stay with you forever, sitting quietly under everything else you do. This was one of them. Since that day, I have told my own children again and again, never get into a car with people you barely know, no matter how the evening is going, no matter how reasonable it seems in the moment. It isn't about being suspicious of anyone. It's about making the decision before a situation has the chance to spiral out of control. Because by the time it's spiraling, the decision has usually already been made for you. A few years later, I was working at a different hospital, in a different part of my career entirely. There, by chance, the kind of coincidence you don't plan for and can't really explain, I met the girlfriend of one of the survivors. We got to talking the way you sometimes do with a stranger who turns out not to be a stranger at all. She told me something that moved me all over again, in a way I hadn't expected all these years later. Her boyfriend was alive. Physically, he had recovered, but part of him, she said, had never fully left that night. He carried guilt he couldn't quite put into words. He kept asking himself, quietly, over and over, why did I survive and the others didn't? What made me the one who got to keep going? That's called survivor's guilt. It's a real and well-documented response, and many people carry some version of it after serious accidents, disasters, or losses where chance seemed to decide who kept living and who didn't. It isn't only the body that carries scars from a night like that. The soul does too, and those scars are often far less visible to families, to friends, sometimes even to the person carrying them. If you're young and watching this, you don't have to go along with every spontaneous decision, even when everyone around you seems to be moving in one direction. You're allowed to say no. You're allowed to take a taxi instead. You're allowed to call your parents at any hour for any reason without needing to justify it first. You're allowed to ask someone to come get you. It is never embarrassing to come home early or to come home differently than planned. The only thing that ever actually matters is coming home at all. And if you've lived through something that still follows you today, an accident, a loss, a night you can't quite put down, please don't believe you're alone in carrying it. Sometimes the body heals quickly, in weeks or months. The soul very often takes much longer, sometimes years, sometimes a lifetime, of quietly managing it rather than resolving it. Accepting help, whether from family, friends, or someone trained to help you carry it, is not a sign of weakness. It is, more often than not, the first real step back into life. I'm not telling this story to frighten you, and I'm not telling it to make anyone feel guilty about a choice they've already made. I'm telling it because every life is precious, more than we usually stop to notice in the middle of an ordinary evening. And because sometimes a single decision made that night, in that car, on that road, determines whether tomorrow begins at all. Take care of yourselves. Your Hannah.